what the pro-Gaddafi protesters seem to have on them all the time. Another live phone call at 11:30 p.m. in Tripoli. Gaddafi's speech has frightened some and others say it's just a threat. This final one, also around the same time and also from the capital, says we don't know what Gaddafi has planned for us tomorrow. Of course, you can keep up to date with the latest reports from Al Jazeera correspondents in the region and globally on our website. That's aljazeera.net/English. Back to you, Doreen.
Emike, thank you very much for bringing us that update. Well, we can now take a look at some other news, and a national state of emergency has been declared in New Zealand, and that's following the earthquake which devastated Christchurch. At least 75 people were killed and 300 people are still missing. Well, the government has accepted offers of specialist help from Australia as well as the United States. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, the epicenter was 10 kilometers southeast of the South Island city, and it was just 5 kilometers deep. The port town of Littleton was badly damaged, and tremors were felt more than 300 kilometers away. The country's Prime Minister, John Key, has addressed the nation, and he said that the country would pull through the disaster together.
All New Zealanders have a piece of our heart in Christchurch. All of our lives are touched by this event. A friend or a family member who lives there, a time spent studying or a memorable experience there. We feel connected to your suffering. Your tragedy is our tragedy. Today I want Christchurch to hear this message. You will get through this. This proud country is right behind you, and we are backing you with all our might. The world is with you. Our Australian friends, our British and American friends, the great countries of this world are putting their shoulder to your wheel. They are sending their support, their expertise, their people to help us. Christchurch, today is the day your great comeback begins. Though your buildings are broken, your streets are washed and your hearts are aching, your spirit will overcome.
We can now talk to Michael Mead. He's the spokesman for the National Crisis Management Centre and joins us on the phone from Wellington. Michael Mead, thank you for talking to us on Al Jazeera. Describe to us the situation.
Yeah, the situation's pretty dire. 75 people have been confirmed dead, and we expect the number will increase. There's a number of collapsed buildings around Christchurch, and rescue staff, search and rescue staff from 5 or 6 countries are helping us out to try and get those people out of there.
How are rescue efforts going?
What's that?
How are rescue efforts going?
Yes, there are some good news stories in there. We are pulling people alive out of the rubble, and in one building they've sent a camera into the rubble to see if they can find anyone alive in there, and they found that 15 people are alive in the Canterbury TV building, and they are trying to get those people out as we speak right now.
What national support is being offered at the moment?
Well, we've received support from all over the world, from Australia, 2 teams from Australia, well, actually 3 teams from Australia, 1 team from Singapore, 1 team from the USA has come out, UK, Japan. So it's very heartwarming for us here in New Zealand to see the international community responding so strongly to what we're going through.
And your Prime Minister has declared a state of emergency.
Yes, what's happened is that he's declared a national state of emergency, and that's really so the national support that we're providing here to the people in Canterbury can be even more closely coordinated. So all the search and rescue efforts that are coming from overseas, and all the efforts that are going down there locally, that's so it can be more closely coordinated.
We had heard as well that power had been cut. Has that been restored? What's that situation like?
Power continues to be disrupted. It's slowly being restored. What we're saying to people is that they should conserve and boil water, and still only on their cell phones text to save stress on the phone network.
And I'm just curious to know what the morale of the people is. We heard the Prime Minister there speaking and saying, trying to pull everyone together. How are people feeling?
I think people have obviously been through a lot, and if you remember, on September 4th we had the first big earthquake, and then there was a major aftershock on Boxing Day, that's the 26th of December, and I mean this is another huge earthquake. So people are going through a lot, but there's a lot of positive stories about how people are helping each other in the community, and what we're saying to people is check on yourself first, make sure you're safe, check on your neighbour, and if possible, if there are people who are elderly or disabled, can you also help them as well? So I think people are obviously suffering, but there's a lot of positive stories coming out as well.
Okay, Michael Mead, thank you very much for talking to us.
No problem.
In Yemen, at least 2 pro-democracy protesters have been killed and 20 more were injured in the capital, Sana'a. Well, it's believed that a gang of pro-government supporters opened fire at the demonstrators. Scuffles had broken out earlier between the 2 groups after protesters were seen rolling a car over before setting it on fire. And we can now talk to Tom Finns. He's the editor for the Yemen Times in the capital, Sana'a. Tom, we spoke earlier on and you said that you had seen scuffles break out at the university.
Yeah, that's right. Around 2 hours ago, a group of around 50 pro-Sada supporters who were dressed in civilian clothing broke through a line of riot police and opened fire at protesters with machine guns. Now, I was told by a doctor at the university who was treating some of the injured that 4 students had been shot in total. That 1 had died after being shot in the chest, and another was shot in the head and is now in a critical condition. He also said that over 20 students had been wounded, and that some of them were suffering from knife wounds. And he suggested that some of them may have stabbed with jambias, which are traditional daggers carried by many Yemenis. If what he says is true, and that there has been a casualty and someone has died, it will be the first death that we have witnessed in the capital after 12 consecutive days of violent protests that have been happening here in Yemen since Hosni Mubarak stepped down in Egypt.
What preempted the shootings?
Well, it seems sporadic. What we've been witnessing in the last 10 days is random attacks on innocent and peaceful protesters by mobs of around 50 to 100 pro-Sada supporters. Previously, they've been carrying rocks and batons, but in the last couple of days, they started to arrive with guns and weapons. This is something very worrying in Yemen, which is a country where there are 3 times as many guns as there are people. So people are worried here that if this continues, things may escalate.
Is there a fear that this could spread then?
Say that again, please.
Is there a fear that this could spread?
Well, actually, there is fear, yes, because these sort of protests are not just happening in the capital. In the south of Yemen, in Aden and in Paris, we've seen similar protests, actually more violent. Around 12 people have died in Aden in the last week.